Hey, this is Steven from Steven's Classic Garage, and welcome to part one of my videos talking about the Kraut strain relief bars. Kraut is a company that makes two strain relief bars for the front end of Mk1 Volkswagen vehicles. So they make this front radiator support, which is their main product that they call the A1 chassis cross-member reinforcement bar. Basically, it's reinforcing the radiator support, the lower part of the radiator support, and it supports a big part of the brace, the frame rails. Pretty much it reinforces the frame rails. Now, in this video, we're going to be talking about the 4-point bracket that goes underneath the suspension, which Kraut also makes, but there are quite a few other companies that make this bar as well. However, I found that this price is the best for all the bars that are out there. So this is Kraut calls it the 4-point A1 chassis performance subframe, and it goes on the Jetta 79 to 84, the Rabbit Golf Cabri GTI 75 to 84, Rabbit Truck aka the Caddy 1980 to 1996, the Scirocco 74 to 1992, the Cabriolet 80 to 93. Now it'll fit on all these vehicles, and also it fits quite a bit of different modifications. The subframe has two cross sections which connect front and rear mounting points of the control arm, practically nullifying chassis flex at the front end of the A1 chassis. This is the best upgrade you can have for your car, hands down. Seasoned racers will tell you this is the single most effective and crucial addition to these vehicles. Guaranteed you'll immediately notice a difference in the rigidity of the frame and positive handling characteristics of the car. Subframe will not interfere with front sway bars, 5-quart oil pans, or typical aftermarket sport exhaust headers or piping. Now, this is what the bar looks like. In the second part of this series, you guys will see this bar in real life, and I'll show that as well. But there might be some errors in that video, as I shot that video before I shot this video. So it could have been that I didn't reread through all of this stuff before I shot the video. So there might be errors there if I haven't reshot it. If there are errors there, forgive me. You'll see it get ironed out in the installation, which will be part 3. So basically, as you see here in this picture, it goes across the two parts of the control arm, the two bolt sections of the lower control arm that go out to the wheels. Here's the oil pan, the bottom of the oil pan here. Here you can see the exhaust, and here's the transmission bell housing here. And here you could see part of the steering rack. So it goes across here, and then it has this X that goes here, and then it has two parallel bars that go from the two different bolting positions. So that's what it looks like, and from the picture you can kind of tell how it goes. This part here goes to the front of the car, and these two go in the back of the car. Now what they say here is installation time is 30 minutes, and it is a matte black powder coat finish. And here you could see this is the back of the car. So this is where the back of the car mounts. It looks like you just relieve some of the tension on the suspension. Take the bolt out, put this thing underneath, and then tighten the bolt back, and tighten the nut back up. Looks like a nut. So, and then here's another picture of the installation in the back, and here you could see the brake lines coming through. So here you can see the polyurethane, or depending on if you have polyurethane bushings or regular rubber bushings, or polyurethane or rubber bushings. So here's the collar for the polyurethane bushings or your rubber bushings, depending on what you have. And then here's the control arm, and it's attached to back here. And so basically, now that I showed you where it goes, why this is important is that it helps with chassis flex. Now, if you notice in here how they have this, it's very, very strange, these Mark 1 Volkswagens. If you look inside the car, there is a transmission tunnel. Now, most of these cars are basically front-wheel drive, so there's no real reason to have a transmission tunnel. Obviously, you see that they are using it for the exhaust to travel through this transmission tunnel, that there is no transmission, right? So instead of having the floor flat, which would have way better strength, it has an arch that goes back here, and then you can see most of this here is all open. So there's not a lot of stuff that is attaching the suspension to the frame, and not a lot of strength balancing out the two different sides, from one side of the suspension to the other side of the suspension. So basically what this does is it links both sides of the frame together to add extra strength. And I do have this part. It is a very, very nice powder coat finish on these bars, and it adds a little bit of weight, but it is worth the weight to brace the car so that you don't have any issues. Now, this is definitely super important, as you saw, the most important, hands down, the most important, where was it? Oh, right, single most effective and crucial addition to these vehicles for racers, because basically it eliminates flex, which will simulate kind of like body roll on these cars. And also another thing, so for me, I'm not too worried about that. What I'm worried about is I have an extremely lowered car with very stiff suspension. So when I'm traveling up driveways into restaurants or shopping malls or whatever, or even into my own driveway, you could hear the chassis flex. You could hear it flex back and forth. So what I'm trying to do now, before I add some performance upgrades, I do plan on turboing my Mark 1 Diesel Rabbit, and basically with an intercooler, and plan on doubling the horsepower. I'm shooting for double the horsepower, so also that as well is going to be a factor. But mainly, I think the biggest factor is going to be that the car is very low. The sheet metal on the car is very thin for the body. The car has a curb weight of like 1,800 pounds. So the body itself is very thin, the sheet metal. And so I just want to have less flex on the chassis, because there is a thing in mechanics called fatigue. And that is when you have a material, and especially thin material, and you bend it back and forth, even slightly, even just a little bit. You bend it back and forth many times. And over time, if there is any impurities, or even if there isn't any impurities, it'll fail. But it'll just take longer. So let's say there's some impurities inside the steel at that or rust or anything like that. If there's a weak point in that steel somewhere, it will a crack will start to form there. And as you start to bend it back and forth, that crack will propagate until the steel completely fails, and then it has a crack all the way across. So I'll show you guys what that looks like on these frames of these Mark 1 Rabbits, and supposedly it's actually very, very common to have that happen. So you can see there some of the mounting places that it goes. So with an installation time of 30 minutes, I think it's going to be pretty nice. So let's talk a little bit about, that's basically why you would want it, is number one, to preserve your frame. Number two is to prevent body roll and improve handling and overall security, right? So those two, performance, so better handling, and then also to protect your frame and also eliminate that creaking sound of when the chassis is going over a bump and you hear it kind of creak forward and then creak back. So there are a couple other companies that sell some, Tectonics Tuning. Oh, and there's a couple other designs. So this is the same design. This is the Eurosport 4-point lower stress front stress bar Mark 1. Basically the same ones here. Now, so here it says 14 gauge steel tubing. I think that's like 80. I think that's like 80 thou. finishing gloss black powder coat. Gloss black, not the best. This is like hammered. This is like satin black. I really like the satin black. I think it's going to look better underneath the car when you're looking underneath there. But if you see here, sale price $150, here $190. So basically 150, 190 is $40 cheaper for basically, it's literally the same bar. If you look at it, it's very similar, if not exactly the same bar. So obviously you're going to go with Kraut and buy this back bar as well. So that way you get the best out of your shipping cost. So I would definitely buy it from Kraut instead of the Eurosport just to save money. I mean, it's basically the same bar. If you want gloss and you want the Eurosport sticker, okay, go ahead, spend another $40 on it. If you want satin black or you don't care, and you don't care about the Eurosport, sticker or whatever, then get the Kraut. And that's what I chose. I chose to save the $40. I'm going to spend it on performance editions, which I believe this is a performance edition. So there's another type of support, which is this other smaller 4-bar, which honestly, and you can see here, $120, and they have not just red, they have red, black, and other stuff. And you can find this online on eBay for like $100 used. Now, honestly, if you ask me, I do not know if they are a better bar. All I know is that the other 4-point covers over way more area of the frame. It's way stronger. I think that the bars are just as big. This bar, it has another parallel bar here, and then this has another 2 bars. So I think that it's stronger for another $20 more for brand new. I think it's stronger and it has more support and better mounting position. Now, are you going to see any benefits from that? I don't know. The only way to find out is really to do the analysis on it. Does it show the weight here? I don't think it does. So it says this one is 4 pounds, so I'm guessing that this is about 6 pounds. But I'll have it in the video number 2, part 2. I'll have the actual weight of this component. So this is one place that manufactures it, Tectonics Tuning. Here is another place. I believe this is basically the same bar, probably also from Tectonics Tuning. So if you notice here, it'll show where it's bolted. So it's bolted to that same point here, but it only goes up to this horn section here. That's as far as it goes, while this other one goes from here to here. So it goes about twice as far, and obviously it has another bar here, and then these bars go across this way and support it that way, which 45 is a big bonus. To have things out at a 45, it definitely balances out the stresses. So again, are you going to see much difference? I'm not sure, but you can see that here it's going to support the suspension of the car. The one that I'm talking about from Kraut, it's going to support the suspension of the car and also the steering rack. And here you can see it only goes from here to here basically. So it's a very, very short. It doesn't even go over the top of this guy. I think that this bar is better, but again, I can't tell you exactly how much better. But in my opinion, I think it's better. So let's show you what you're trying to avoid. This is what you're trying to avoid right here.
Back and
so
forth.
If you look here, see there's a crack
look at that.
right here on the frame. Now I'm assuming that this is a power steering car, and if you notice here that this is where the rack is right here. So what I'm thinking is that it cracked right in this section, I think, is where it cracked. Right, well basically right down in this section down here is where it cracked loose. And that's probably from power steering, having that extra power shoving the wheels, because there's a lot of stress on the frame when you're taking a hard turn, let's say in racing application or even daily life. And also that back and forth of the tires is also going to do the same thing with the fatigue of the frame, right? So you're taking, let's say you take the same road to work every day, that same turn every day, and you're taking that same right turn, it's gonna start to flex that material, and eventually it's gonna break it. Right. So that's one of the ideas of like this frame. You can see is completely cracked free. It's completely broken here. You can see it moving in this area here. So that's what you want to avoid, because now you have to go back through here and weld this. But if you weld it, are you welding it straight? Is the frame straight in that case? Also, you have to hide it, because if you want to sell the car, now you have a crack here. And obviously, if you weld it, that's not exactly guaranteeing that you've fixed the issue, because then that whatever caused the issue is going to find another weak spot, and the next weak spot, the next up weak spot. So this is like the weakest spot, the weakest link, I guess you could say. It's just going to find the next weakest link and then crack it right there the next time. Over time, it might take twice as long as before, but it will eventually crack. And obviously the idea is that with a classic car, we want to prolong it for maybe another even 40 years, right? My car is 40 years old almost. It would be great to have, actually it is 40 years old. It's a 79, so it is 40 years old. And I would like it to live another 40 years. And I'm sure that you would as well. So to preserve the frame would be another good deal. So here's another crack here. You can see it down here. This looks like the brake line. So it looks like it's close to, and this looks like the part of the suspension, right? So the suspension, and then it's right on the inside of the suspension. So that is correct. There is a rail that goes down here on the suspension. And you can see that this frame is cracked. Yeah, so this is a control arm. And then this is where the brake line goes in, and you can see here that it is completely cracked free. Oh, and here's the exhaust. Here's the flex part of the exhaust. So yeah, this is the frame rail here, and you can see that this is completely cracked free. And now when you turn the wheel, and so you see that the main point that the stress comes from at this section of the frame is from the wheels. It's from the wheels and controlling the car. So, and obviously, if you're not turning the wheel while you're under the car, you may never even notice that this is cracked. So that's why I'm saying that in order to preserve the frame of these cars, because they're so light, I would definitely recommend this. And I think it's definitely worth the 5 or 6 pounds of weight and the $150 to fix that. Now, I would suggest this one over this one, just because of the coverage and the extra couple pounds of steel and bracing further down the car. So fully bracing the suspension and fully bracing to the other side of the steering rack. It goes pretty much to the other side of the steering rack. So, and obviously, it bolts about back here somewhere. So that's why I would suggest these, and this is the cheapest out of all of them, but yet seems, out of all the ones that I've looked at with this type of bolting pattern, which is pretty much these guys and Eurosport, and it seems like no compromise in quality. Very, very good quality piece. Now, stay tuned for part 2, where I will show you this part in real life, and we'll look at the finish. And again, there might be some misspoken portions in that if I don't decide on reshooting. Otherwise, I might reshoot it tomorrow morning, another 11-minute video looking at this component. Alright, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the part 2 of this series. And then part 3 we're going to install it, part 4 we're going to review it, and I'll give you guys my thoughts and my yes or no on buying this component. Thanks for watching, take it easy, peace.